In just a couple of weeks, Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty will release, less than 50 days to go. This upcoming expansion will be a spy thriller, putting our V in the combat zone of Pacifica. Dogtown specifically is the name of the region. It looks exciting, it looks like it's going to be very different than the base game story, but it's not just that this is going to introduce new story missions, quests, side quests, gigs, and new gameplay activities for RV to take on. It's also going to be Cyberpunk 2077 2.0. This has been a secretive update of sorts, but this is going to be a massive reboot of the base game experience. That's why I've said in the past that it's best to wait for a new playthrough of the game until Phantom Liberty comes about, because the game is going to be rebuilding perks, skill trees, vehicle combat, cyberware, AI, police, and much more. As one of the lead developers on the project, Pavel Sasko, said in an interview, virtually no system of the original game has been left untouched. We also saw in other interviews CD Projekt Red developers acknowledging that this is how they wish they had launched the game in. Regardless, it has been a long road to this point, and recently Cyberpunk 2077 Steam reviews went from a mixed perception to very positive, and I think it's now standing at 90% positive reviews. It's been a drastic change in terms of how people view this game, and I think a lot of that has to do with the amazing modding community and also the fact that CD Projekt Red has stuck with this game. They've listened to the community, they have supported the community, and they've drastically improved Cyberpunk 2077 over the last 2.5 years. Now, of course, there have been quite a few bumps in the road. CD Projekt Red have been the victims of, well, they've been hacked, and a lot of Phantom Liberty actually was leaked online last year. Now, Cyberpunk 2077 has been brought back into the spotlight in terms of its launch, in which an executive said that it became cool to dislike it. I actually believe Cyberpunk on launch was way better than it was received. This was a remark that was made recently by an executive, and just something that didn't need to be said, because all it did was fuel the negativity surrounding this game and how it launched. We also had people accusing CDPR of trying to rewrite history. So I just feel like it's better to concentrate on the state of the game now, how it has evolved, and how there are exciting things on the horizon. And right now we are learning much more about Phantom Liberty and the upcoming 2.0 update, which again are two separate things, but probably going to be releasing right around the same time. One, of course, is paid, which is Phantom Liberty. The 2.0 update will be free. Now, through CD Projekt Red's official channels, we haven't seen too much of new information. That may change with Gamescom, which is just about to happen. It's right around the corner. Maybe there's some new gameplay shown there. But on the official Twitter account for Cyberpunk 2077, we did see a tease of a very interesting location, which may have some gameplay choice and consequence for us. Scraps from the past, wondering why this pile of Aerozep scrap squatting right in the stadium stomach ain't been junked for parts yet? Well, it's a vital part of Kurt's Wonderland. The nuclear heart nestled inside feeds Dogtown's folks with juice, no bills attached, toss in water, a roof overhead, all for zip. You begin to grasp the siren song of Hansen's Utopia. And this nuclear heart has a lot of people thinking that this could work similar to maybe Fallout 3's Megaton. Obviously, this seems to be a little bit different, as this is maybe fueling the power and everything for this little region of Dogtown, and it seems to be a key component of Kurt Hansen's iron grasp over the people of this region. So maybe we'll have some choice and consequence. We could ignite or blow this on up. Bargus militia would go to pieces, and maybe the people of this region. But I just love the fact that this could be a possibility for RV, some evil, I guess you could say. Now, another new location that was unveiled just the other day by CD Projekt Red is Paradise Lost. Folks call it Dogtown these days, but once upon a time it was slated to be a high-rolling resort brimming with luxury spas, ritzy casinos, and grand hotels. Then along came the NUSA's Unification War, wrapped hard on Night City's doorstep, spooked the big money boys. They all pulled their eddies, ran for the hills, left the dream gathering dust. And as you can see in this screenshot, we get a look at some of the abandoned luxury locations that most definitely will be either occupied by Bargus's militia or maybe other various gangs that we find in Pacifica, like the Voodoo Boys. I can only imagine that RV will be having a lot of gunfights in structures like this. Now, while we haven't really seen a lot of new information directly coming from CD Projekt Red, they have recently been doing a lot of different gameplay events for Phantom Liberty all across the world. And that is where we're getting tons of new information from the gamers that got access to about an hour or so of Phantom Liberty. They were able to freely explore the open world, and a lot of them have detailed their experiences and a lot of the big gameplay changes and new gameplay features that have been introduced that we'll finally get access to in just a couple of weeks. But But more specifically, these impressions are a part of the Phantom Liberty tour, in which CD Projekt Red visited 8 different cities from Warsaw, Tokyo, Beijing, Sao Paulo, Paris, London, and they gave gamers the opportunity to play Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty, and I think also the update 2.0 is included within that. And we did see some users composing all of the new information that we have learned. A big shout out first to Reddit user Parker P11 for combining a lot of this, but here are some of the new details that we have learned. In addition to Dogtown, there is a new available area near the Orbital Airspace Center. New roads in the Badlands have also been spotted, as well as new things all around Night City. This is actually one of those exciting things that I don't know if it's necessarily just associated with Phantom Liberty or if this is the 2.0 update, which is free, but it does seem like we're going to be getting some new locations, not necessarily just within this new region of Dogtown, but all across Night City. I've talked in the past, maybe we'll see the casino introduced, but yeah, it does seem rather interesting that there's going to be some location around that space center that we'll now be able to access. Very curious with how that works. Maybe this involves one of the endings, because there is a new ending associated with Phantom Liberty. Now, after installing new cyberware, when you exit the Ripper Dock menu, you see an animation of V getting up from the chair, all in pain and stuff like that. Very cool that we're getting some new gameplay animations for stuff like that. There is no new samurai songs, a little disappointing. There is no new options in the character creator, and the level cap has actually been increased to 70. Vehicle combat is also available from a third-person perspective, although at the moment we only know about such a possibility in the case of fighting with a katana on a motorbike. And it has been said, do not expect new cutscenes with current love interest, but rather small references similar to Blood and Wine, possibly just some text messages. And this was kind of my concern and fear. We saw in previous interviews that CD Projekt Red said there was some new romance stuff, but it wasn't major. And this was my suspicion that, yeah, it was probably just going to be some new dialogue options, and that appears to be what this exactly is. And yeah, that is unfortunate, because the character relationships, the quest lines associated with Judy, River, Panam, and Carrie, they were phenomenally well done. I was gushing about them at launch, and even to this day, I think that they are some of the best storylines in gaming. Very emotional. I was very attached to Panam specifically, and not seeing more of that it's disappointing, but maybe not too surprising, because the events of Phantom Liberty kind of happened concurrent to the events of the base game, so there could have been difficulty with adding new content for them. But I definitely hope that we see these characters in future games. Maybe that is the plan. Maybe we see V in future games. It really is unclear what the future of Cyberpunk is beyond Phantom Liberty in terms of narrative, because yes, we know a new game is in development, and it's probably going to be happening in the next couple of years. But if there is a sign of hope, it is worth mentioning again that there is a new ending associated with Phantom Liberty. Maybe that is a happy send-off for V and our love interest. Now, moving along, driving the car almost the same as in the base game, so it doesn't appear that there's too many new driving mechanics, which I don't think was necessary. There is a new phone interface, which is gladly appreciated. I didn't really like the interface that was there in the base game. Now divided into 3 categories: recent contacts, messages, and contacts, which are sorted alphabetically. Yeah, before it was very messy to go through a lot of that. The UI definitely needed some upgrades, and it seems like CDPR has given them. They have improved character models and facial animations. Gunplay is not really changed, although one person describes that shooting has a better feel overall. There is a new vehicle buying system, and it's being compared to the one from GTA 5, and there is a cooldown that has been adding to healing items and grenades, so you won't be able to spam them, which a lot of us did in the base game, although to be fair, I don't think I really needed to rely on that too much because of how easy it was. There has been some big net running changes. Now you can make combos with quick hacks, and you don't have to wait a while to use another hack on the same enemy, but it will add to the queue. There was also spotted something like a Netrunner booster that made RAM unlimited for a short while. You can also hack through monowire. And my big takeaway from this is that I think it has become abundantly clear that CDPR prioritized making different build potential a possibility. I say that because in the base game, I really felt like I could be everything all at once. I was great at hacking, I was great at shooting all of the weapons, and it didn't really feel like I was role-playing as a character. Maybe this makes role-playing a little bit easier, in which I can be just focused on net running and not specifically, being a solo at the same time. But we'll have to see how all of this works together, but it definitely feels like they've gone to great lengths to make hacking even more fun. run. Now, there is no vehicle customization. Again, maybe that's something included in a new game in the future. It seems that some cars will have more health points than others. Car tires can finally be destroyed too. Again, because they're introducing vehicle combat, they wanted to introduce more vehicle destruction mechanics, and being able to destroy tires is going to be very useful in those chases. There is some kind of dynamic heads-up display. As an example, when you start talking to President Myers, the entire heads-up display disappears. You can reset attributes now without having to create a new character. There is new sounds for the Outlaw GTS, described as more aggressive. It's possible that more cars got new sounds. Some NPCs react to our character. These NPCs seem to be marked with a green circle on the minimap. Very interesting with how that'll work. Shooting with the weaponized Outlaw GTS is described as similar to the JB700 from GTA 5. It can only shoot forward is what that means. There's a somewhat improved map. The roads on it are described as more visible. Of course, there will be new clothes, vehicles, and weapons that have been spotted. And of course, we've talked about the black market in my previous video, some of the new stuff that will be included in the game. Now, some more additional stuff that has been learned. There is now a transmog management. Wardrobe is now also going to be available in clothing stores, not just in V's apartments. So again, they've made it easier to change our clothes, and customization is a little bit more streamlined with us able to do it all across the open world whenever we visit a store, which kind of makes sense. And there is some more on net running changes. Hacks are now divided into two categories: ones that expose your position to the enemy, all the combat hacks, and the ones that don't. When you get detected after using combat hacks, but you're not found yet, you will notice a progress bar showing the time needed for an enemy to find your position via network, and during that period, every detectable hack will speed up this progress by certain amounts of time. So if you want to take everyone down via hacks without being found, you need to queue them up in the right way. And again, I love this additional details with hacking, making net running a lot better, and this is yet another example of it. And enemy net runners have been buffed. Now, instead of trying to overheat the player all the time, they try to disable weapons and cyberware, among other things. There is said to be new climbing animations for V. It seems to have been improved. It also looks like every level of heat, every star, the star system, adds something new to the police chase. On the highest level, it is said that max tech comes in via dropship and stuff like that. And the last gameplay detail shared in this specific Reddit thread is that it's now possible to increase the number of installable cyberware with the corresponding perks, and maybe also the attributes. And again, I think it is worth mentioning that we cannot have all of these cyberware, the best cyberware, installed at once. There's now going to be a meter in which we have to meet, or we'll have negative gameplay effects. And I think that's better for role playing, and it's going to be very interesting if we're going to have to, if we want to be a huge net runner, we can't have all of this cyberware installed. Maybe there will be decisions that we'll have to make. And again, I think if CDPR is making this more of a role-playing experience, I think that's smart, and I really do like that decision. Now, in another Reddit thread, this time coming from Reddit user Shavad, who actually got to play Phantom Liberty in Warsaw, they shared some of their own impressions, and again, they shared some new gameplay details that we hadn't heard of before. Now, moving past the story details and specific gameplay encounters that they have with the Bargus militia, they talk about the Dogtown region. They say now when it comes to this new district, one thing that makes it really stand out is that even though it's not that much larger than the combat zone that we can see in the current version of the map in the base game, it's a very layered area, with the roads constantly going up and down, as well as many platforms and levels that you can climb on, which allows the developers to pack quite a lot of content in it. Basically, it feels like a giant abandoned construction site that locals decided to turn into a settlement with some nicer places sprinkled in between. Now, moving along, they share some loose notes, some new gameplay details as well here. It seems like you can no longer take down enemies non-lethally and dump their bodies into a container. Now you can only kill them while doing so, probably because previously, due to certain technical limitations, the game still counted that as a kill. Johnny Silverhand does appear regularly after the initial segment with Songbird, commenting on V's decisions and even bringing out more often his past in the military, which I believe will be explored more in Phantom Liberty than in the base game. And I've said it before, and I'll say it here once again, that I don't think Johnny Silverhand's going to play too much of a role in this DLC. I think it's going to be primarily Songbird in our head, and I think the one thing that may make Johnny's appearance a little bit more major is that new ending. Maybe he plays more of a role within that. Now, the Relic points, which unlock additional abilities, again, this is the new part of the skill tree. They are obtained by connecting to the Militech terminals spread across Dogtown and downloading data from those, which takes a bit of time, so don't follow my example and try to do that under fire. This system kind of reminded me of Places of Power from The Witcher 3, just more rewarding. So it does sound like kind of like checkpoints in which we have to go after we download the data, and maybe there's a certain amount amount of Bargus militia or enemies that we have to take out in this certain location to get that point. Now, whether or not gaining these points for the Relic skill tree is worth it or not, or even a challenge, remains to be seen, but we have seen some leaked images of the new skill tree. We talked about that in my last video on this. It looks certainly like it has been overhauled drastically, but we also did see in a recent presentation with gamers from Projekt Red our first look at the new Relic skill tree, and we actually did see a first look at one of the new abilities. This, I believe, is in French, and a shout out to Twitter user Varium Boggle, who was responding to the Neon Arcade, another Cyberpunk creator, who uploaded the images onto his Twitter account, and the translation is our first ability, Vulnerability Analysis. This apparently costs 3 Relic points. During combat, you can now detect and see vulnerabilities in an enemy's armor and cyber gear. Touching a vulnerability provides the following benefits: 100% chance to critically hit, plus 25% armor piercing bonus, damage against weak points. If you inflict enough damage on a vulnerability, it will explode, generating an EMP explosion, dealing damage to enemies within a 3-meter radius. And that is just one of them, and there appears to be a couple of others, so how substantially that will change the gameplay experience, hopefully we'll be finding that out in just a couple of weeks. In the open world, side activities like assault in progress or organized crime were not marked as NCPD scanner hustles and instead had a different kind of icon. It could be exclusive to Dogtown given that NCPD doesn't go there, but it makes me wonder whether they decided to rebrand this type of activity in the rest of the city as well. Maybe this is another example of a UI overhaul, some more details in the map, maybe, we'll have to see. Now you can encounter gangers driving casually around the city. This, of course, I think is included in the new update 2.0. I found out about it the hard way when, while in a rush, I was hitting random cars on the road until one of them started shooting and going after me. And again, I think that this is part of Night City that was missing in the base game, and I'm so happy that we're going to be finally getting that. Car chases with gangers, not just the police, should be exciting. There is new fixer gigs that are still acquired the same way, but their content is said to be more in line with regular side quests, so it seems like these gigs are a little bit more fleshed out, which is awesome to see. And now while looting, I noticed that healing items and ammo appeared less regularly than in the current game, which seems to be related to the new balance introduced in a patch, which for those that are going to be using their saves that they've had since 2020 when the game released, I think a lot of us are set for life, as I think many of us have like 400 to 500 of those healing items, and the ammunition, maybe that is something that we'll have to worry about a little bit more. Phantom Liberty will be introducing 3 new radio stations. One of them, as you probably know, will feature all the fan-made music picked by the developers via a contest. Second one will be alternative genre of music, representative of Dogtown's denizens' mental state, described as fairly bizarre. Then the final one will be something like a playlist selected by Idris Elba himself with a DJ. And another gameplay mechanic that has been reworked is said to be the crafting system, although there really isn't any details specifically on the changes. Phantom Liberty is not going to be adding a new game plus mode. This is something I've been waiting for a long time for. The reason being that the team was entirely focused on completely rebalancing the game for the expansion, so if they now try to redesign this balance for New Game Plus, it would delay the release. They couldn't tell whether it's something that they might potentially add in a patch before they finish supporting the game, but didn't say definitive no to that, and I really do hope that we eventually see that. I know that Phantom Liberty in this update 2.0 really is the last hoorah for the game, but I really hope they make New Game Plus the finale for the game. Maybe something next year, but I'd really love to see it. Now lastly, that is shared here, if you load the save in which V is fully chromed up, which causes the negative side effects due to going above the cyberware limit, you will receive a message from Victor that triggers a small quest. Really like this new cool detail, which pushes you to visit the nearest Ripper dock to redistribute your cyberware. It was done this way because during the playtesting, this kind of character was suffering from such massive debuffs that they were dying instantly in a fight. Anyway, in the last couple of weeks, we have been learning quite a bit about Phantom Liberty and Update 2.0. There's actually another small little detail that somebody shared. They mentioned seeing one new car and they called it a Maymay on steroids is what they're comparing it to. That small little vehicle in the base game. So very cool. I'm very excited to see all of the secrets, all of the stuff that we don't know about the game yet in just a couple of weeks. Let me know your thoughts. How do you feel about Phantom Liberty right now? Are you excited to jump in when it releases on September 26th? Again, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, but thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video or if you found any informative value, and consider subscribing for more videos like this, and I'll see you later.